He's Howard Ibach, author of 2 books on the creative brief.
And he's David Moore, freelance creative director. Together, David and I are the Brief Brothers. We love talking about advertising, creative briefs, and briefing. This is part 2 of our conversation with my old friend, Rob Schwartz. Let's continue the chat. Yeah. You know, most of the time when I do my workshops, I'm training and working with marketers. I get creatives in the training too, and sometimes some senior executive folks, but mostly it's marketers, junior to senior level marketers. They want to know how to write a creative brief. I don't get many ad agency folks. Occasionally I'll get a strategist. They're mostly on the client side. I just have found it difficult to break into working with strategists to improve their brief writing skills. Why do you suppose that is? Why is it the ad agency strategists who probably need as much help as marketers do? And every senior creative I've ever met has said, yeah, I've seen some really bad briefs. We've all seen bad briefs. They come across my desk every day and we have to make up a better brief. We have to write our own briefs. I've met freelancers who say I didn't like the brief, I rewrote it. Why?
You know, that's interesting. I think one of the things I've observed about strategists lately is that they don't have any heroes anymore. You know, like there used to be, John Steele, he was someone's hero. I mean, Adam Morgan is still doing great work. He was somebody's hero. And I don't know if they're not paying attention or I don't know what they're doing in the ad schools, but we just don't seem to be like, can we have a brief like, Stephen King at J. Walter Thompson? We don't have those kind of heroes anymore. I think that's one of the issues that we have. So I don't know if that helps your business, but maybe talking about, we still have some creative heroes out there.
Oh, yes.
But strategy has somehow, I don't know, just gotten really, I don't know, they've sort of been told to go sit in the corner of the room, or they're put under the stairs and they're only allowed to come out when company comes over. I don't know. Something happened to strategists.
I've got a couple of strategy heroes, and I'm not even a strategist. And I say I'm not a strategist. I just play one on Zoom. But I've met 2 strategists that I absolutely adore and revere. One is John Steele. He finally reached out to me and he was a guest on our show.
I saw.
And the other is someone whose brief I loved, but didn't know the author. And I finally met her. She wrote a brief 20 years ago for Kiwi Shoe Polish. And I use this in my training all the time. It's 127 words, not including the questions, because I counted, because that's what I'm supposed to do. And I didn't know who the author was until Christopher Owens, who's going to be on our show next. He's the senior guy over at TRG, and hired her. Her name is Sarah Walker Hall. It was her first brief ever. And she was part of the pitch team that won Kiwi Shoe Polish from, I forget the agency that was the current, AOR. And she was part of the team that wrote the first campaign that ended up winning all kinds of awards for their outdoor campaign. Wow. And the brief was submitted as part of a case study, and I think it won a silver. But in our industry, Rob, we don't sign our name to our work until we submit it to the award shows, and then only people in our industry know who did the work. And the same is true with the briefs. Nobody knows who wrote the briefs unless there's a thing at the bottom of the brief that says the creative director and the strategist have to sign off. That's a rare thing these days. That doesn't happen much anymore. So maybe that's one of the reasons we don't know who wrote these briefs, and we don't know, so we can't celebrate them.
Well, I think we got to know, and that's a great story, and I'm glad she's out there doing cool things for Kiwi and other things. But I think we got really interested in someone like John Steele because we got really interested in Got Milk. The work was famous. And I think, the work was wow. So you leaned in. Wow. How did they come up with that? Oh, it was the deprivation strategy. Well, tell me more about this deprivation strategy. What the hell's going on here? We don't have enough wow. That's the problem. There's not enough creative that makes us say wow. And frankly, there's just not enough creative out there. I think we just, we do a lot of, as I tell people, we do a lot of yabba dabba, but not a lot of do. Like we're not making stuff anymore.
I'm going to
That's
steal that
good.
too.
Yeah, I'm gonna steal that. Howard, I think one of the reasons that you can't get, the agencies don't want to hire somebody to train strategy is the same reason that agencies don't advertise themselves. Hell, the four horsemen of the apocalypse. There's apathy, there's ignorance, there's arrogance, and there's fear. They're arrogant. Oh, we don't need that. Fear,
Right.
wow, what's going to happen? Apathy is like, does it really matter? And then ignorance, they don't know what they don't know.
And that's how I met Henry. Henry found
Mm.
my book, my first book on the brief, on Amazon, read it, and persuaded his boss at the agency where he worked at the time to bring me out to do a workshop. I can count the number of ad agencies who brought me in either independently or through the ANA, which is where I do most of my work, on one hand. It's been almost entirely major brands, from mom and pop to Fortune 500s, and their marketers want to know how to do this thing. So,
well, I like David's four horsemen of the apocalypse. I think that these four horse people are the gatekeepers of the agency. That's for sure.
I think
Yeah.
I've got five. I think there's budget actually is in there too, but
That's the donkey next to them.
exactly.
The four horsemen of
Listen,
the apocalypse and their donkey.
I want to give David an opportunity to talk a bit about the ad that you wrote, Rob. So,
Yeah, I
David,
want to hear about that. Yeah, tell me, why did you do that? How did it come about? And
we'll
then
set it up.
You were at the top, so you could say, yeah, we're going to do this. But who else did you have to convince? Wasn't there people going, oh, we don't need, yes, the last big ad from the last big ad agency on Madison Avenue. That's
actual newspaper.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does anybody remember that?
Well, it came about from our chief creative officer, a woman named Amy Ferguson. And the agency was at 488 Madison in the Look building, which was a famous building, it's sort of in Mad Men days, and interesting building because Bob Dylan had recorded his first songs there, and Stanley Kubrick was a photographer for Look magazine, and they invented New York Magazine on the fourth floor there. So it was kind of a interesting storied building and stuff. But we were moving, so there was a mass consolidation of real estate. This is kind of post-COVID, and she was working on some stuff. I think her original idea, she was going to do a documentary on sort of the last people on Madison Avenue. It was a very ambitious project. And she was CCO. I was in my this coaching role. And when she was at the agency, we would have breakfast, every couple of months. I was there for her, laid out for me, Amy, what's going on? What's keeping you up at night? What's getting you out of bed in the morning? And we were at Sarah Beth's Kitchen on 27th and Park. That's where we used to meet. And she was telling me about this thing that she was going to do about this kind of documentary on the last people of Madison Avenue. And I thought, why don't we just do it as a great old classic Chiat Day print ad? We Chiat Day used to do all these great house ads, like when they were pitching Yamaha. Chiat Day wants to join a motorcycle company.
Yes.
You published these.
I've got yeah.
Make Chiat Day sit up and beg when they were going to do a dog food company. So there was a certain kind of interesting. I was just thinking of another one. How to tell the difference between Chiat Day and an ad agency. There was just like this wonderful campaign that had always been done for the agency. I thought, let's do that. It'll be the swan song, using the song sheet that the agency always did. We use the same old school typeface, that cool serif typeface, and blah, blah, blah. And she's like, you know what? That's great. Let's do that. And we sort of talked about it at the rest of the breakfast. Breakfast was done. She paid. I think I went back to my apartment. I wrote the copy by that afternoon, and she was like, "Oh my God, this is amazing." She goes, "How did this happen? Why is the copy here so fast? I love it. How did you do this? What? I'm like, "Well, that's the way we used to do it back in the day. You get an idea, and you'd write it up."
This is the benefit of being a senior creative. You just crank it out.
Exactly. So listen, we went back and forth on a few things, and then we took it and we shared it with all the leadership. Top of the food chain with Troy Ruhanen on the way down. Everybody loved it. Like, yeah, of course. Let's make this statement. And then we shared it with legal, and legal said, we've discovered that there are whatever 3 other agencies that no one's ever heard of on Madison Avenue, and there's risk that they'll sue us. So great. So we put in the word big, last big ad agency. But that was it. There you go.
I love that. And it's just,
Yeah.
as you know, I beat on this daily. Why is it, if what we do is advertising, why don't we believe in it?
Yeah.
It doesn't work. Oh, wait a minute. We don't want to tell anybody that. So that's where you come up with all these other reasons. Well, it's a relationship business, or it's this business, or it's that. Fundamentally, it is coming back to the Bob Hoffman thing. I just want to be famous.
Yeah.
And when you're looking, if a client is looking for an agency to get into the pitch, the ones that they know of, you're trying to hire the best talent. They want to go to the place they've heard of.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
It's like Y&R ran an ad in every single issue of Fortune magazine from 1930 until about 1969. Some of them were amazing. The spine ad, the computers can't cry. A lot of them were crap. But every month, somebody had to crank that out. And I just find that amazing. And it's really sad that we don't do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of classic B2B. Anytime, even recently, anytime that TBWA has run stuff and done it on LinkedIn, it's produced results. So I hope there's more. I always love doing house ads because you can do some interesting stuff, and look, we have the proof.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So Rob, you've been in the business a long time.
Yes, 30 plus years.
30 plus years. Yeah, I did duty as a working creative for 26 years, in the last dozen years as an educator. So not a practicing creative, although I'm what we call that, a sock sniffer, close to, but not practicing. Would you do anything differently if you're starting over today?
I don't know. It worked out pretty good, so I don't know.
Yes.
I don't know what I would do differently. I think if I were entering the business, maybe I can turn your question a little bit. I think I would. I would sort of enter in and try to create a new kind of media company. I see that clients pay for media. And is there some way to do media in a more interesting way? That might be a way. That might be a way in. My daughter's in the business, not my son, and I was like, okay, I guess you want to be in advertising, fine. But I'm not sure. My wife is in the business, and we were sort of like, why would she want to go in the business today? It's just not. I don't know. It's just not as creatively rewarding. And but listen, she's figured out a way to make it creatively rewarding. It's just much harder. So I think I would try to do something interesting with media, make media interesting.
Well, you've transitioned into this new position where you are the first in the, not just for TBWA Chiat Day, but across the company, the many companies, as a coach. Talk to us about that. What was the motivation for becoming a coach, and tell us what it is that you do as a coach?
Yeah, well, coaching is really interesting because it's kind of like being. I always wanted to be a record producer. So now that we have the benefit of hearing a lot from Rick Rubin, and I once had lunch with him, but that's a whole other story that we could maybe do another podcast on. But when I heard what Rick Rubin did with artists, I realized, wow, that is a lot like coaching. And when you listen to Rick, and I was listening intently to something he talked about when he was working with Tom Petty, he said, Tom had the songs in him. And all I was trying to do was sort of, coax them out of him, sort of let them bubble up out of him. I wasn't writing the song. I wasn't coming up with the idea. I was just sort of, can I help him? Can we bring this, out to the world? And all the best record producers did some form of that, and I really like that. And I thought, yeah, that's kind of what coaching is. It's taking people's ideas and you're trying for their lives, for their careers, and you're just trying to bubble it out of them so they can see it and they can talk about it and then make it happen. And what I discovered in coaching was it's not therapy, because therapy is looking back. Why am I this way? Why am I always late? I don't know. I don't really, that's not for me to tell you. Mentoring is very much immediate, and you're giving advice. Okay, well, if I were you, I would do this. Or when I was in situations, I would do this. But coaching is like creative direction and record producing. It's what could be. It's what if. And I was really attracted to that part of it. So that was sort of the philosophical thing. The pragmatic thing was in the height of COVID, I was asked to look after the rest of our New York portfolio and take a different role for Chiat New York. We promoted Nancy Reyes, I was thrilled that we could bring her up. And I was basically a consigliere to all these leadership groups. So these different leadership teams, whether it was Lucky's or 180 or Chiat. And I thought to myself, here I am sort of dispensing my stuff, my wisdom, whatever it was. Do I really know what the fuck I'm doing? So I stumbled upon this book called The $1 Trillion Coach about a guy named Bill Campbell, who was sort of the coach of Silicon Valley. And ironically enough, was the client at Apple in 1984. And
Small world.
I know, and I'm reading this book and I'm like, wow, I like what this guy does. He sort of, is listening to people and helping them achieve, their objectives and dreams. And that whole sort of confluence of stuff between Rick Rubin, what I was doing daily, the $1 Trillion Coach, I'm going to go to coaching school. And I went up to Brown, and it was just like SVA all over again. I'm like, this is amazing.
Well, my estimation of you just went through the roof, knowing that you went to Brown. That's where I got my master's degree. So I didn't know that.
I went to Michigan. I'm more of a Michigan person, but my Brown thing was, school of professional studies.
That's okay.
Nothing near as impressive as what you've done.
It's Brown, and you got that moniker after your name. So congratulations. And I'm gathering that this has been rewarding for you.
Oh yeah, it's amazing. Something happens. You may have noticed this as you get older. Your brain changes and your interests change. And when you become a creative director, and I've seen in the best creative directors, starting with somebody like Cordner and like Lee, they really liked when other people succeeded. They were into it. They wanted you to be great. They wanted great ideas. So the first big brain change for you is, okay, I'm here for other people. It's not about me. It's about us. It's about this thing we're building. So I was already starting there. And with coaching, it's just reinforced and magnified, because I'm working with someone one-on-one, and I'm just like, tell me more about what you want to make happen. Tell me what this perfect day looks like. Tell me what this dream scenario looks like. And people, maybe they're reluctant, maybe they've never said it out loud, but once they say it, you're like, stop. That is amazing. Now, what can we do to make that happen? And it's so rewarding.
Do I have to work at TBWA Chiat Day or Lucky's to take advantage of your skills as a coach?
No, it's great. I do, a lot of my work throughout TBWA, but I can work with some outside people as long as it's not, a direct competitor. The agency's fine. And so I work with a couple outside people, and you can find all my stuff. You don't even have to listen to me yak about it. You can find my stuff on Substack. I've got a Substack called Rob Schwartz Helps, and I drop all kinds of coaching and creative things on there.
Okay, we'll be sure to include that on the info on the link when we post the show. I want to pivot as we wrap up our conversation to one other area that I think is really big in the
Mm,
industry, and then I want to ask you, about training for young people. But
mm,
the thing that's really everybody's talking about today, you know it, I know it, David knows it, it's about AI. How is
mm.
AI influencing the work that we put out, our ability to be in charge of our own work? What are your thoughts? What are you seeing from your perch?
I mean, I like AI. I always try to like, there's new technology. Let's see what we can do with the tool. I wasn't gonna be one of these people who are like, oh, I'm not going near that fire. That's too hot. It's fire is new tool. Let's see what we can do with it.
I
Not gonna
like your
work with a
canoe
wheel.
analogy. I like your canoe analogy about AI.
Oh yeah, just get in the water. That's an old Hyper Island thing. So yeah, I guess just to follow up on what you're saying, David, stuff is happening. Stuff's happening upriver. Stuff's happening downriver. The technology river's flowing. Don't worry. Just get your canoe in the water. Start paddling. You'll discover stuff. So I've gotten my canoe in the water on AI, and I think it's one of the best experiences I had with it was very early on. I wrote about this on the Substack. I think DDB had put together kind of like this AI agency, this sort of little experiment that they put out there. And from what I remember about it, you kind of you answered a few prompts on their brief, as it were, and they came out with an idea. And I think I did something for McDonald's with it. I'd worked on McDonald's in my career, and I thought this was kind of interesting. And what I loved about it as AI is I answered a few, I answered a few questions to the AI prompt, and all of a sudden I had an idea. And if I answered them a different way, I had another idea. And if I answered them a third way, I had another idea. And as a creative director, I remember, we would do something called 5x5s, 5 ideas by 5 o'clock. It was a struggle to get to 5 ideas. Well, with AI, good, bad, or indifferent, yes, no, or wows, you could have 500 ideas by lunch. And I love the notion that you can generate a lot of ideas. And then you, as the creative person, you come in and say, okay, potential there, potential there. That one is horrible. Get rid of that one. But then you can build off it. And you're not waiting, staring at the cursor for inspiration to happen. It's already happening. And then you can
And
make it amazing.
and that's the key. It's you, the human being, making the decision. It's never
Mm.
going to be AI. Maybe someday, I don't know, pie in the sky, wishful thinking, maybe AI will be able to actually come up with a great idea. I'm not holding my breath on that one because
I
it's about
mean,
us.
yeah. And by the way, all the creativity is in the prompting. So if you prompt something,
Yep.
you say, I'm the poet laureate of the United States of America. In the style of one of my heroes, Robert Frost, could you write me a manifesto ad for duct tape? I'm pulling from David's pragmatic brief. AI, particularly Claude, Anthropic's Claude, will spit out something pretty interesting, something you can work from. Like, is it going to be the Think Different manifesto? No. But it might be something you can start from. And it helps to start things.
If I'd
I,
had
I,
your
I,
Duck Band Duct Tape was my client in the past.
Oh, I gave you a good prompt, and there you go.
see, I think the key right there is if it requires a degree of a powerful degree of creativity to come up with a good prompt.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
you can't, I don't know if you can actually ask ChatGPT or any of these, AIs to help you write the prompt, maybe, but it's your unusual thinking. I love the, as this poet, as this short story, as this lyricist, right?
yeah.
Well, then the
And by the way, I need the School of Literature, Science, and the Arts to help me with the references, because if I
Yeah.
just went to, I don't know, welder school, I'm not gonna know what a barbaric yawp is. I'm not gonna be able to
Precisely.
pull from Edgar Allan Poe, and I need that, to deliver a good prompt, because if the
I don't know if
prompt is
you
interesting, the output could be.
I don't know if you saw the episode we interviewed Sherry Horowitz. She calls herself the AI, what does she call herself? The AI, something or other. She's
Hmm.
an art director.
Mm,
an artist grounded in philosophy and history and poetry and art history.
mm,
And she uses that knowledge to feed prompts into, I think she uses, it's one of the art-based
mm.
AI tools. And she showed us the paragraph long prompt that she used to create an image.
Oh yeah.
Now
Yeah.
you can debate whether you can
Go ahead.
debate whether the art is any good or not, and that wasn't what interested me. It was like, how did she come up with the language? Where did she said in the look of Audrey Hepburn, in this movie, or this reference to this obscure French poem, but it was her deep knowledge of the humanities and the arts and literature that gave her the ability to write the prompts that produced art.
But
That's
then
what's fascinating.
what also is necessary is what Rob was just saying is at the end, you need what Paul Simon is called taste. You need to be
Yes.
okay, yes, that.
Yes.
She called
Yes.
herself she called herself the AI conjurer. That was her title.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So using a word like conjurer, there's an element of alchemy there. I love that. I
Yeah.
was just thinking, going back to your bailiwick. What's prompt? Prompt is the brief.
There you go. Yep.
You know,
A verb.
there you go. The prompt pals. We have a line extension. You'll have the brief bros, and we'll do the prompt pals.
Okay, we got a whole new podcast to get it started. So
right.
one of the things that Henry and I lament when we do our show, and we try to address it with many guests, is the lack of training in our industry. It used to be de facto in some of the big shops, in the major shops, and that's gone away. There are a lot of places like the Miami Ad School and the Hubbard School of Journalism and Mass Comm, where I've done some guest speaking, and I'm going to be moving to Austin. I hope at some moving back to Austin, and I would love to adjunct at the Stan Richards School of Advertising and PR, one of the best programs in the country. So there are more of these programs emerging all over the place. But still, we see, young people coming into our industry who are not prepared, who don't have the ability to push back against a brief that, may not be as clear as they want it to be. What are your thoughts on providing the training necessary for the next generation of creatives to thrive in our industry?
Well, maybe if you have other agency people listening in, we're doing it at TBWA. So the training's happening. I'm going to Mexico City on Sunday, and we're going to do 2 weeks of training. And we did 2 weeks in Madrid. This is global training for people in May. So there is investment there, and there is knowledge sharing there. So I think it's one of the things that makes TBWA attractive. Like, you're going to learn some stuff here. So I think that it's worth your investment internally if you're running an agency to do some of this training, and people want it. You're not giving, this is not something onerous. People want this.
Yes.
So that's one thing. I think the other thing, listen to your podcast. I like to say there's a lot of openings at the University of YouTube. There's a lot of ways to learn, but it comes back to, you got to pay attention. You got to be curious and pay attention. And there are people out there, like we mentioned, all these people. Steve Harrison, read his stuff. Bob Hoffman, read his stuff. John Steele, read his stuff. What you guys are publishing. Follow David on Twitter, and you'll see, if you want to call it X, that's your choice. I'm still a Twitter person. But, David posts every single day. He posts the learnings of this business. So some of it's going to be on you.
Well, building on one thing that you just talked about, TBWA is doing an amazing job. But one of my last questions, and maybe you don't want to get into this, but what's the future of holding companies in the advertising business? What's the future?
I think holding companies they're going to make it.
Are they going to make the work better?
I think it's cycles, and at the end of the day, what a holding company can bring that a sexy boutique, and I know we're having our sexy boutique moment, and I think it's great, because I think we're seeing a lot of good people step up and do stuff, but the boutique not going to have all the resources. not going to have the total brand experience, the full complement of places and spaces that a big idea needs to find its way to have impact on a client. So the ultimate kind of, pure promise of the holding company is still quite valid. How we fulfill that promise, well, that remains to be seen.
It feels like that there are so many of the big ones are lacking is what TBWA is doing, though. It's this global training where you actually truly bring people together to learn rather than just how much can you tithe to the corporate parent every month. It's not
Yeah,
just-
listen, I think that when I was a CEO, and I use it a lot, I used to always draw this little, XY chart. And on top of the Y-axis, I would write impact. And on the right-hand corner of the Y-axis on top, impact. On the X-axis, I would write revenue. And in, the upper right-hand quadrant, which is always the golden place to be, you would have impact work that was making money. And I would ask people, let's plot the brands. And I think if we can still create impact and we can still satisfy, the needs of Wall Street, because these are public companies, that's where we have to be. You can't just have impact without revenue if you're going to run an enterprise at this scale. That's just what the game is. Don't hate the player. That's the game.
Yeah. A very dear friend of mine said, I don't believe in retirement. I believe in refirement.
Well, I'm in pre-tirement. That's what I call it. So.
Well, it seems to me that you're far from being done. And that's a good thing. And that's how I feel.
I heard a great phrase from Kat Gordon. She said, not retired, not required. Somewhere between there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have one last question you can confirm or deny. I heard this story. Is it true that and maybe we leave this out, but did you have a bag of coins on your desk? You'd ask people to take a coin, and I want to know what that's about.
Oh, the coin story? Yes. I had a bag of coins, and when I would interview people, at a certain point in the interview, I'd ask them to pull out a coin. And whether it was a quarter or a penny, it didn't really matter. I'd say, what year is on the coin? And they would look at, I don't know, it's 2002. I'd say, great. Tell me something in your life from 2002. And it was always a challenge if people pulled out like a 1962 coin and they were in their 30s. And what would they do with that? And they would say, well, it's 1962 and I wasn't born. And I said, well, was anyone in your family born in 1962? Well, my mom was. Great. Tell me about your mom. So it was really a way to be an icebreaker, but it was also a way to see how creative people could be.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Rob Schwartz, coach at TBWA Chiat Day, across many companies, a longtime leader in our industry, and someone I'm very proud to say is my friend and former boss. Rob, thank you so much for joining David and I on the Brief Brothers.
Yeah, thank you. This was a wonderful conversation, so thank you.
Good stuff, David.
Good stuff, Howard.
He's David Moore.
He's Howard Ibach.
And together, we're the Brief Brothers. Till next time, bye-bye.